Ross, this might be my favorite news story of the day.
Why is that, Tom?
Because it is a tag team that I never knew I wanted, and now I know I never had it. I need them more than ever.
Yeah, on the Major Wrestling Figure podcast, Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. You know those old boys from the WWE back in the day?
The Major Brothers.
They were speaking to the Sandman, and during the conversation, the subject was broached about the tag team of the Sandman and Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and how close they came to becoming the tag team champions back in the day.
Yeah, so they teamed up for an episode of Raw and a house show before that, and then they sort of brought up this match they had with Carlito and Regal, sort of laughed about it being a barn burner. In Sandman's own words, he follows up by saying, Duggan comes up to me and he goes, "Yo, Hack, they're thinking about putting the tag team straps on us." I turned around and went, "Who the F's gonna do the work?" We're going to both stand on the apron. It'll be the worst hot tag in the history of the business. Brian Myers described the team as two Roberts, no Ricky. Lovely nod to the Rock and Roll Express, which had Sandman keeled over as well. But wow, Jim Duggan, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Golden Era Hacksaw Jim Duggan, and ECW original The Sandman were at one point considered, I don't know how far that consideration got, to be WWE Tag Team Champions.
And it's not as random as you might think. There was stuff going on Raw back in 2007 that would lead to Hacksaw and Sandman sort of becoming a thing quite naturally due to what they were doing on their own.
Yeah, so Jim Duggan had just had a Singapore Cane on a pole match against Carlito at the Great American Bash. Regal and Duggan had like a mini feud bubbling away as well, and it led to this match going down. It had occurred on a house show a few days earlier. But Duggan and Sandman, we because we are silly boys here, we've deep dived into the not just the history of Duggan and Sandman as tag wrestlers, but also of odd tag teams in general. And we're going to talk about how this team could have played out, and we'll give them a name by the end, won't we?
Oh, yeah.
In terms of tag team history, Duggan has legit tag team accolades. Former Mid-South tag champ with Magnum TA, two-time UWF tag champ, IWC tag champ with Scotty Gash in 2002.
That's a great name.
That is a name. He teamed with Marcus Bagwell in WCW in 95 for a bit, and Eric Watts in 99. In WWE, in and around this team with Sandman, he teamed with Eugene.
Everyone loved that team.
Yeah, it was a great team.
Yeah.
And he had several one-off teams as well with Scotty 2 Hotty, Santina Morella, Jerry Lawler, and quite a long run with Super Crazy as a tag team as well.
Who can forget the feud they had with the Highlanders, Tom? We were all there.
We were all there for it. Sandman has a few legit tag accolades as well. Former ECW World Tag Champ with 2 Cold Scorpio in 95. Former WEW Tag Champion as well. Spent a lot of time teaming with Tommy Dreamer. He teamed with Tommy Dreamer in late 90s to the early 90s at ECW, and then again during one of his many times in an ECW reunion faction. Spent a lot of time teaming with him, mainly around the New Breed. Of course, I forgot to mention, obviously, with Jim Duggan, he's teamed with some of the greatest of all time during the Golden Era. There was a run with him and Tugboat. Him and Randy Savage were a team.
WCW 2000, of course. Team Canada.
Team Canada as well. They've all got history, but they all sort of come together on this particular day in 2007 when they form a team. But it's not the only time, Ross, where WWE have sort of thrown odd couples at the wall to see what sticks.
Yeah, but there are of course the sort of examples like John Cena and Shawn Michaels, who in the build to their WrestleMania 23 main event were put together as a tag team, took the tag team titles off Rated RKO. But sometimes the manatees take charge, Tom. You know, the South Park manatees. And they pluck 2 names attached to balls and stick them together, much like the Rock and Sock Connection. Who could forget about that? Mick was a bit of a mark for Dwayne, and we know how the rest goes, don't we?
That was a piece of fried gold, the Rock and Sock Connection. It's historic when they'll just take 2 guys who shouldn't coexist. How can they coexist? And they do. Steve Austin and Dude Love forming a team in 97 was wonderful. It was Austin going, I don't want to team with anybody. I know Shawn Michaels is out and I'm a tag champion, but I'm just going to defend him on my own. But Dude Love's going, hey, I'll team with you, Steve Sturr. And you kind of saw Steve Austin eventually start to warm a bit to Dude Love, and then injury got in the way, and it never
55-day reign they had, by the way. I didn't realize it was that long. Steve and Dude.
Yeah, Austin's neck injury put the stoppers to that one. But it's not. Hey, look, the history of odd teams rolls through the decades. Book Dust springs to mind.
Dust, yeah. Goldust wanted a team with Booker T. Booker T did not want a team with Goldust. Booker T got in the NWO. Booker T was then kicked out the NWO by Shawn Michaels. Booker T then turns face. Then he teams with Goldust. And we know what the rest is.
Yeah, and the rest is it. And you know what? They really caught lightning in a bottle. They were a really popular team. I remember watching WWE in 02 and going, I quite like Goldust and Booker T. Now, I wasn't sure at the beginning, but they really they humanized them a lot through that run. Heath Slater, when he was left out of the draft in WWE, ended up needing somebody to win a title with, and Rhino was the one that stepped up, and they blasted through a tag tournament.
Become the inaugural, easy for me to say, tag team champions on SmackDown after that 2016 draft. This is around the period of time where we found out that Rhino had a fetish for squeezy cheese. Do you remember those times?
I'd push that out of my head, to be honest. But that certainly was the thing. We mentioned him a little earlier. Regal and Eugene became World Tag Team Champions. There was some storyline reasoning behind this as well, because Regal had sort of was very protective of Eugene, of Eric Bischoff's nephew, as the storyline went. So then when they broke away from Bischoff, they started teaming together. And again, it was injury that forced this team to call time again.
And then William Regal got another oddball tag team partner in Jonathan Coachman. Of course, he was like the lackey, wasn't he, back in the day for Bischoff? And he was just a damn scoundrel, so he was. But he was the one who lost the titles for Eugene and Regal. I've got an ECW tag team that on the surface of things, yes, they're two ECW boys. But what does Taz and Spike Dudley have in common?
Well, they are both. They're both known to be ECW originals. That's about it. Spike Dudley throws himself off stuff. Taz is a human suplex machine.
It was around about the time where Spike was trying to take down the Dudley Boys because he'd split away from Bubba Ray and Devon, and then eventually, after a couple of attempts, he aligns himself with Taz. They win the tag team titles, hold them for a bit. I remember getting No Way Out 2002 for a good school report. The tag team champions for that show were Taz and Spike Dudley.
that was a thing that really it was a kind of, I think because they were both short guys. And it was in the land of the giants. That was a thing. But it's so funny because had it been booked in ECW, it would have been treated very differently.
Yeah.
Rico is a name that's come up in the search for odd couple tag teams.
Yeah, we got Rico Corner down here. Rikishi and Rico.
Corner.
They came together when Rico was forced to fight against Billy and Chuck. But it wouldn't end too well because basically he would go back to Billy and Chuck, so he would. So Rikishi and Rico won the titles. Then to get the titles back on Billy and Chuck, Rico helped Billy and Chuck, even though he was Rikishi's tag team partner.
It was, it was like he won it by accident, but then quite liked being tag team champion, as the story went on that one. Obviously, there's been so many more than that, and no doubt you'll be shouting about your favourites. I mean, it's a story, a tale as old as time, to put odd couple teams together. Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss are currently women's tag team champions. How will they coexist? Tag teams have always been a weird bone of contention for WWE. They go through periods where they really like them, and go through periods where, as Ross said earlier, the manatees take control. The Raw tag scene in 2007, where there was this consideration for Sandman and Jim Duggan as champions. It seems like a weird thought to go Sandman Duggan as champions, but when you see the state of the tag division, you'll kind of get why. So 2007, we had the World Tag Team Champions held by Lance Cade and Trevor Murdoch.
I quite liked Lance and Trevor back in the day.
They were okay.
Gritty boys. They beat the Hardys for the titles. They retained them against the Hardys at Vengeance 07. They defended them against the Highlanders on multiple occasions in a tag division that also featured the world's greatest tag team and Crime Time burning through. London and Brian Kendrick were in the mix as well. In fact, they lost the titles to London and Kendrick during a South Africa tour and won them back before the end of the tour. 3 good teams we just mentioned there.
Yeah, so I mean, it's weird to think that, as I said, you'll see the state of the division. Here's the thing, right? SmackDown, that's not as good. Deuce and Domino were the WWE SmackDown Tag Team Champions. They held them throughout the summer of 07. Dave Taylor and William Regal were challengers, as were Jimmy Snuka and Sergeant Slaughter.
That's 2007, not 1987.
Slaughter maybe trying to find his way back to Duggan like in the past. And Eugene and Shannon Moore. So the SmackDown scene was pretty miserable until Matt Hardy and MVP, who were feuding at the time, became tag champs because, if in doubt, put 2 people feuding together as tag team champions.
Champions.
Yeah, so the Raw scene, obviously with a couple of decent teams in there, it was held by Cade and Murdoch. It seemed a little bit lifeless and fruitless despite that. So why not bring in a team like the Sandman and Jim Duggan? First team together on a Raw house show on the 21st of July 2007 in Anaheim, California. They defeated Carlito and William Regal in just shy of 10 minutes. Second match of the night, that was. The second time they teamed was on Raw a few nights later. This time, they didn't do so well. So I'm going to break down what happened in that match.
Go on, then.
If you don't mind.
Go on, then.
So Sandman and Duggan enter separately. Jim Ross makes the comment that the match should be sponsored by Home Depot. Because obviously, Sandman...
Do it, Tom!
Oh!
It's time to get the wood going! That's the famous catchphrase.
What, he loves that. You had Duggan with his 2x4, and you had Sandman with his Singapore cane. I think that's when they went, oh, there's an idea, pal. Wood team. The match saw Duggan wait on the side for Sandman to get a shoe in by Regal and Carlito. Hot tag. Duggan cleans house for a little bit, goes for the 3-point stance clothesline, eats a backstabber in about 2.5 minutes.
He did a nice back body drop, though.
He did do a nice back body drop.
He got great height.
Yes, he did. Then that would be the last time they'd ever team. But there was a conversation about them teaming further and becoming champions. Sandman got released from the company a few months after this. Duggan would float around until around 2013.
That's not true. That can't be true.
It's true.
2013.
Check Cage match.
I can't remember him being around there in 2013.
Popping around. He was not consistently, but his last WWE match was in 2013.
Yeah.
Had a bit of time off between 2011 and 2013, but he was certainly popping around. But we would never see their likes again, and we're just left to wonder what could have been. I mean, of all the ideas, a Sandman Jim Duggan tag team, I don't think it's the worst.
You watch their entrances from the match we just talked about there, and the Sandman especially, well, obviously Hacksaw Jim always gets a big pop, and all that kind of stuff, but Sandman's coming down. He comes down through the crowd like he always does. The reaction's fantastic.
Yeah.
The investment would have been there from the people.
There would have been investment there. How would you have built that? If you were Booker, it's what we want to happen.
Yeah.
It's a little 9 pitches. Like, how would we build Sandman and Jim Duggan as a team?
Carpenters. One is drunk all the time. Whoops, I've lost a finger. And then Jim's the straight guy. Yeah. In meaning straight liquor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I like that. I like the idea of Sandman taking Jim Duggan into a bar, Duggan in his blue pants and satin boots, and going, hey, okay, this is my favorite bar. Don't worry, I'll look after you. And Sandman goes to the toilet, comes back, Duggan's beating everybody up. Taped his fists up with glass like back in the day. It writes itself. They both. And I like the idea of maybe Duggan. Oh, this is something that Aiden said outside, right? What you do is you have Duggan, the night they win the titles, Sandman goes, hey, Jim, got a little something for you. And it's baggy blue jeans and a dirty yellow shirt. And then he takes his 2x4, puts it through a wood carver.
You can't do murder on TV.
Makes him a Singapore cane, and they put the American flags on the Singapore canes. Yeah. What? That's money.
Writes itself.
It writes itself, and then they win the titles and hold them forever. What would we call this team?
I don't know. Well, in the similar vein of Rosie and Jim, Sandman and Jim, and give them the theme of that song, Sandman and Jim, Sandman and Jim, playing with wood,
but not their privates.
Christ.
They're both called Jim.
Yeah.
The big Jims.
Jim Squared.
Jim Squared.
Yeah.
This could be how you debut Jimmy Uso as their son. I mean, Jim Ross said it. Home Depot.
Yeah.
The fact that they've all got wood.
The Big Stiff Wood Boys or something like that.
Big Stiff Wood. I think Lewis, is that the one that Lewis suggested in our chat? The Big Stiff Wood Boys. Thank you, Lewis, from Cultaholic.com. You could go Team America.
Lumber Hacks.
Lumber Hacks!
Because Hack was in WCW. Hacksaw is part of the name. The Lumber Hacks. Wood.
Hack.
Yeah.
Saws.
Yeah. It just writes itself. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. Should have been their tag team name.
I love that. The Hacksaw. Weirder things could have happened. Weirder things could have happened.
That was a potted history of what could have been between Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the Sandman. What a ride it's been.
Hit myself with the
Did
cane.
you? Either no joke then. Imagine going to a park in the depths of December and getting twatted on the arse for one. That's how I spent my December last year. It stung for a week. Anyway, thanks for watching. I've been Ross and he's been Tom.
Love you, bye.
Bye.